Harun was a simple man, a farmer by birth and by choice. He lived at the edge of a small, quiet village, where the air was always fresh with the scent of soil and flowers. His days were filled with the rhythm of farm life, tending the fields, feeding the animals, and repairing the small house he inherited from his father. Though his life was modest, Harun felt content. Every morning he would wake up to the soft crowing of the village roosters, and every evening he would watch the sun dip behind the distant hills, casting golden light over his wheat fields. The village children often ran past his house, their laughter ringing through the air, but Harun rarely joined them. He liked his quiet life, the steady work that gave him a sense of purpose. He knew every inch of his land, every tree, every stone, and every patch of soil. The oak tree near the corner of his farm had always stood as a quiet sentinel, its roots stretching deep into the earth, its branches reaching for the sky. It was an old tree, older than Harun himself, and he often wondered how many seasons it had witnessed. One afternoon, after a long morning of tending to the crops, Harun decided to walk around his fields. He liked to check on the progress of his wheat, ensuring that the soil was rich and the plants healthy. As he walked near the oak tree, he noticed something unusual. The ground near the tree's massive roots seemed uneven. At first he thought it was just the natural shape of the roots, but then he saw a small hollow partly covered by dirt and leaves. Curiosity stirred within him, stronger than it had ever been before. He knelt down, brushing away the soil with his hands. His fingers trembled slightly as he cleared the dirt, revealing a wooden hatch almost perfectly hidden beneath the tree roots. It was old, weathered, and covered in moss, yet clearly crafted by human hands. Harun's heart raced. He had walked past this tree countless times, and yet he had never seen this before. How could something so carefully hidden remain unnoticed for so many years? Harun stood and examined the hatch closely. The wood was strong, though aged, and a small iron handle protruded from its center. He hesitated. Something about this discovery both excited and frightened him. The stories he had heard as a child came to mind, tales of hidden tunnels and secret chambers buried beneath the earth. Could this be real? Could there be something hidden beneath his very feet? Something left behind by those who came before him? With a deep breath, he decided to find out. Harun gripped the iron handle and pulled. The hatch creaked loudly, the sound echoing in the silent afternoon. Dust and small leaves fell into the hollow, and a cool, musty air rose from below. A narrow staircase descended into darkness, carved roughly from the soil and stone beneath the tree. Harun felt a shiver run down his spine. It was as though the tree itself was holding its breath, waiting for him to take the first step. He took one last glance at the bright sunlight, the familiar fields, and the village in the distance. Then, gripping his lantern, he stepped onto the first stone step. The staircase was tight, and the air was thick with dust and the scent of earth long undisturbed. Harun felt his heart beat faster with each step, a mix of fear and excitement driving him forward. The light from the entrance above grew faint, replaced by the soft glow of his lantern. Shadows danced on the walls of the staircase, and for a moment, Harun imagined that the walls themselves were alive, watching his every move. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the staircase opened into a vast underground chamber. Harun's breath caught in his throat. The room was enormous, far larger than he could have imagined. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old books, jars, and strange objects. Some of the items were simple tools, others were delicate trinkets that seemed almost magical in their detail. Dust floated in the air, sparkling in the lantern light like tiny stars. The room smelled of earth, old paper, and something faintly sweet that Harun could not identify. In the center of the chamber, on a stone pedestal, rested a small wooden box. It was intricately carved, and despite its age, it seemed perfectly preserved. Harun approached it slowly, each step making the wooden floorboards creak beneath his feet. He reached out with trembling hands and lifted the lid. Inside were neatly tied bundles of letters, yellowed with age. The ribbons holding them together were faded but still intact. Harun picked up the first bundle and untied it carefully. As he opened the first letter, he realized it was written in a familiar hand. The handwriting, elegant and precise, belonged to his grandfather, a man Harun had known only through stories. His grandfather had passed away long before Harun was old enough to remember him clearly, but he had always been a figure of mystery and respect in Harun's family. The letters were full of reflections, memories, and advice, but also something more, a hidden history, a story that had never been told. Harun read on, feeling a mixture of awe and sorrow. The letters spoke of challenges his grandfather had faced, of battles fought not with weapons but with courage and wisdom. They revealed secrets about the land, the village, and even the family itself. Harun's eyes widened as he realized the depth of what his grandfather had kept hidden. His life, which had always seemed simple and ordinary, suddenly felt small and fragile compared to the legacy now unfolding before him. One letter in particular caught his attention. It was addressed not just to Harun, but to the future generations of their family. In it, his grandfather wrote of a time when the village had faced great hardship, when people had been forced to hide the truth to protect what was precious. He spoke of trust, loyalty, and the importance of preserving the past. Harun could feel the weight of his grandfather's words pressing upon him. It was as if the man had reached across time, guiding him, warning him, and preparing him for a responsibility he had never imagined. Hours passed, though Harun did not notice. He was consumed by the letters, by the stories of his ancestors, and by the strange chamber that seemed to exist outside the normal world. The sun had long set above the ground, leaving the farm bathed in twilight. But Harun's lantern continued to cast a steady glow, illuminating the words that now seemed to shape his destiny. As he carefully returned the letters to the wooden box, Harun realized that his life had changed in a single afternoon. The world he had known, the familiar fields, the quiet village, the simple routines suddenly seemed incomplete. There was now a hidden history beneath his feet, a story that demanded to be acknowledged. The oak tree outside was no longer just a tree. It was a gateway, a silent guardian of secrets that had been waiting for him to discover. Harun sat in the chamber for a long while, letting the quiet settle around him. He felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He knew that once he left this place, he could not return to the same life as before. The discovery had changed him. It had given him knowledge, responsibility, and a connection to his family he had never felt. The hidden entrance under the oak tree was no longer a mystery. It was the beginning of a new chapter in Harun's life, one that would test his courage, his heart, and his understanding of the world. Finally, with a deep breath, Harun climbed back up the staircase. The night air greeted him cool and calm. He closed the hatch carefully, making sure it was hidden once more beneath the roots of the oak tree. As he walked back to his house, the moonlight illuminating his path, Harun felt both fear and excitement for what lay ahead. He did not yet know the full story that waited beneath the tree, but he knew that his life would never be the same again. The discovery was only the beginning, and he was ready, or at least he hoped he was ready for what was to come. Harun could not sleep that night. The moon hung high in the sky, casting silver light across his modest farm. But his mind was far from the familiar comfort of his small house. Thoughts of the hidden chamber beneath the oak tree consumed him. He kept thinking about the letters, the artifacts, and the mysterious stories of his grandfather. Every detail he had uncovered earlier seemed to whisper to him, urging him to return. The farm, the animals, the quiet village. All of it suddenly felt small compared to the secret world he had discovered beneath the roots of that ancient tree. Before sunrise, Harun rose from his bed. The village was still asleep, the air crisp with morning dew. He carried a small lantern, a bag for the letters, and a sense of purpose that felt heavier than any load he had ever carried. As he walked across the fields toward the oak tree, he could hear the soft rustle of leaves in the wind and the distant crow of a rooster, but his attention was entirely on the hidden entrance. Each step toward the tree made his heart beat faster, and a strange combination of excitement and fear filled him. He paused for a moment, placing his hand on the rough bark, and whispered a silent promise to himself. He would uncover every secret hidden beneath the soil. With careful hands, Harun lifted the hatch once again and descended the narrow staircase. The chamber greeted him like an old friend, or perhaps a long-lost part of himself. Dust particles floated in the lantern's light, and the shelves lined with books, jars, and artifacts seemed to hold a silent history waiting to be spoken. He set his bag down on the floor and walked slowly around the room, examining each object as if they were pieces of a long-forgotten puzzle. There were old farming tools, delicate carvings, and even a few coins, their metal surfaces worn smooth with time. Harun's mind raced with questions. Why had his grandfather hidden all this? What was the purpose of this secret chamber? On a higher shelf, he noticed a stack of journals, their leather covers cracked and brittle. He carefully pulled one down and opened it. The handwriting inside was unmistakable. It belonged to his grandfather. The words were deliberate, full of emotion and careful thought. Haroun read with rapt attention, discovering stories of hardship, courage, and hope. His grandfather had documented the lives of people in the village, the struggles they had faced, and the secrets they had been forced to keep. Some stories were joyful, filled with love and friendship, while others were heartbreaking, recounting loss and betrayal. Hours passed as Haroun immersed himself in the journals. He learned that his grandfather had been more than a simple farmer. He had been a guardian of the village's history, protecting its secrets from those who might misuse them. The letters he had read the day before were only a part of the larger story, a prelude to the truth hidden in the pages of these journals. Haroun's respect for the man grew with every word he read. His grandfather had faced unimaginable challenges and had made sacrifices that Haroun could barely comprehend. Among the journals, Haroun found a map. It was old and fragile, drawn with careful precision. The map showed the village, the surrounding land, and several hidden paths that led to places he had never noticed before. One mark in particular drew his attention, a small symbol near the oak tree. It matched the location of the hidden entrance. Haroun's heart pounded. The map suggested that there were other secrets in the area, perhaps other hidden chambers or treasures waiting to be discovered. The realization both thrilled and terrified him. His land, which had always felt familiar and safe, was now a place of mystery and potential danger. While examining a set of jars on one shelf, Haroun found a small bundle of objects wrapped in cloth. Inside were several delicate pendants and charms, each with intricate designs. One of them caught his eye, a pendant shaped like a leaf carved from a smooth, dark stone. As he held it in his hand, he felt an unexpected warmth, as though the object carried a memory or a story of its own. Haroun wondered if these objects had been worn or used by his grandfather, or someone from the village long ago. Each artifact seemed to have a purpose, a connection to the lives of those who had come before him. He carefully placed the pendants and charms back in their bundle and continued exploring the chamber. At the far end of the room, he found a small alcove. Inside was a pedestal, and on it lay a single unmarked book. Unlike the other journals, this book had no title or date. Haroun's curiosity overwhelmed him. He opened it carefully, and the pages were filled with drawings, symbols, and writings in a code he did not immediately understand. He realized that his grandfather had created a system to protect the most important knowledge, something too valuable to be easily discovered by anyone. Haroun felt a thrill of anticipation. Deciphering this book would be a challenge, but he knew it was a key to understanding the true purpose of the hidden chamber. As he studied the book, Haroun's mind wandered to the village above. He thought of the people who lived there, unaware of the hidden history beneath their feet. The thought of holding this knowledge in secret weighed heavily on him. He realized that the discovery was not just about curiosity or adventure. It was a responsibility. The chamber, the letters, the journals, and the artifacts were all part of a legacy that had been entrusted to him. His grandfather had prepared him for this moment, and now it was his turn to protect and understand what had been hidden for generations. While he explored, Haroun discovered a small corner of the chamber that seemed almost untouched. There he found a series of letters bound together, written by someone other than his grandfather. The handwriting was younger, more hurried, and the tone was urgent. As Haroun read, he realized that these letters were messages of warning. They spoke of dangers that had threatened the village in the past, of people who had sought to uncover the secrets for their own gain, and of the courage required to keep the knowledge safe. Haroun felt a shiver run down his spine. He had known that the chamber contained secrets, but he had not anticipated the danger implied in these letters. Despite the warnings, Haroun felt a sense of determination growing inside him. He understood that the fear and caution in the letters were necessary, but he could not let them deter him. His life had been quiet and simple, but now it was intertwined with a history that demanded action, understanding, and courage. He decided that he would spend the coming days studying the journals, deciphering the coded book, and understanding the full scope of what his grandfather had hidden. As the morning sun began to rise, Haroun realized that he had been in the chamber for hours, lost in the world beneath the oak tree. He felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. For the first time in his life, He was aware of the depth of his family's legacy and the responsibilities it carried. The hidden chamber was not just a place of mystery. It was a place of learning, reflection, and purpose. It had shown him that the life he had known was only a small part of a much larger story, one that stretched back through generations and would continue through him. Before leaving the chamber, Harun carefully organized the journals, letters, and artifacts. He made sure everything was exactly as he had found it, understanding that the secrets of the past deserved respect and care. He closed the unmarked book and placed it back on its pedestal, feeling a quiet reverence for the knowledge contained within. He took one last look around the chamber, noting the intricate carvings on the walls, the dusty shelves, and the soft glow of the lantern. This hidden world, though secret and silent, had already begun to shape him in ways he could not yet fully understand. Climbing back up the narrow staircase, Harun felt a strange sense of connection to his grandfather. The man he had only known through stories now felt present in a way that was almost tangible. The oak tree, standing tall and ancient above him, seemed to nod in approval as he emerged into the fresh morning air. Harun carefully replaced the hatch, making sure the entrance remained hidden once more. As he walked back to his house, Harun could not stop thinking about the day ahead. He knew he would return to the chamber, to the journals, letters, and coded book. He knew that the discovery beneath the oak tree was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge him, teach him, and change his life forever. The hidden world had opened its doors to him, and now it was up to Harun to explore its mysteries, honor its secrets, and understand the legacy that had been entrusted to him. For the first time in his life, Harun felt the weight and wonder of true discovery. The chamber beneath the oak tree was no longer just a secret. It was a part of him, and he knew that his life, simple as it had once seemed, had been forever transformed. The days that followed Harun's discovery were unlike any he had ever known. The fields, once a place of comfort and routine, now felt empty without the weight of secrets waiting beneath the oak tree. Though he continued his work, his thoughts constantly wandered to the hidden chamber, to the journals, letters, and artifacts that seemed to call him back. Each day, as the sun rose and the wind rustled through the crops, Harun felt a growing sense of purpose, mixed with a shadow of unease. He had decided that it was time to return to the chamber, to understand more fully the world his grandfather had left behind. Early one morning, before the village awoke, Harun lifted the hatch and descended the familiar staircase. The air in the chamber was cool and musty, filled with the scent of old paper and earth. Dust danced in the lantern light as if the chamber itself were alive, breathing quietly in the shadows. Harun set his lantern down and looked around, feeling a sense of reverence and awe. This place was not merely a storage of old items. It was a library of memories, a sanctuary of knowledge, and a shrine to courage. Harun began by studying the unmarked book, the one filled with drawings, symbols, and codes. For hours he tried to make sense of the strange characters, tracing the lines with his finger, comparing them to the notes in his grandfather's journals. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. The book was a record of events, carefully coded to protect the village's history. It spoke of leaders, of disputes, of promises made and broken, and of sacrifices that had been necessary to ensure the safety and survival of the community. Harun felt a mix of shock and admiration. His grandfather had lived in a world far more complex and dangerous than Harun had ever imagined. As he studied, he came across a page that caught his attention. It was a map, similar to the one he had seen before, but with far more detail. It showed not only the village, but also surrounding forests, rivers, and hills. There were markings indicating hidden paths, safe houses, and secret meeting points. One mark in particular drew Harun's focus. A small, almost hidden symbol near the edge of the forest not far from the village. The symbol was unfamiliar, yet it seemed significant. Harun realized that his grandfather had not only hidden knowledge beneath the oak tree, but had also left clues scattered across the land, waiting for someone to follow them. The realization filled Harun with both excitement and anxiety. He understood that the life he had known, quiet, routine, and simple, was only a part of the story. The village, the land, and his family's history were far deeper and more complicated than he had ever realized. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The knowledge he had uncovered was not just a curiosity, it was a duty. He had been chosen, in a sense, to continue his grandfather's work, to protect the village's secrets and ensure that the past would not be lost. While exploring the chamber, Harun noticed a small bundle of letters that he had not yet opened. They were tied with a thin ribbon worn with age. Carefully, he untied the ribbon and began to read. The letters were written by villagers, some addressed to his grandfather, others as personal journals recounting the struggles of daily life. Harun learned of families torn apart by disputes, of acts of kindness that had changed lives, and of quiet heroism that had gone unnoticed. Each letter added depth to the history he was uncovering, revealing the courage and resilience of ordinary people who had faced extraordinary challenges. One letter, in particular, shook Harun deeply. It described an event that had taken place decades ago, a betrayal by someone within the village who had sought to exploit the hidden knowledge for personal gain. His grandfather had worked tirelessly to protect the community, hiding records and artifacts in secret chambers, including the one Harun had discovered. The letter spoke of fear, determination, and hope, emphasizing the importance of preserving the truth. Harun felt a pang of sorrow and pride. His grandfather had carried a heavy burden, one that he had managed to shoulder with grace and courage. As he read, Harun noticed a recurring theme: the importance of unity and trust. The letters and journals described times when the villagers had been divided, when suspicion and fear had threatened to destroy the community. Yet through cooperation and understanding, they had survived. Harun realized that the hidden chamber was not only a repository of knowledge, but also a reminder of the values that had sustained his family and village through generations. Courage, honesty, loyalty, these were the threads that wove the fabric of their history. Hours turned into a full day as Harun immersed himself in the chamber. He felt a connection not only to his grandfather, but to every person who had contributed to this hidden world. The artifacts, the letters, and the journals were more than objects. They were a testament to human resilience and wisdom. Harun felt a profound sense of humility. His life, which had seemed ordinary, was now intertwined with the lives and sacrifices of those who had come before him. He understood that he was a part of something far greater than himself, a legacy that demanded respect, dedication, and courage. As evening approached, Harun took a break and stepped outside the chamber. The sun was low in the sky, painting the fields in shades of gold and orange. He stood beneath the oak tree, the same tree that had hidden the entrance to this secret world. The sight of it no longer felt ordinary. The tree was a symbol of strength and endurance, a silent guardian of the past and a bridge to the future. Harun ran his hand along its rough bark, feeling a deep sense of connection. The chamber beneath its roots was not just a hidden room. It was a part of his identity, a reminder of the responsibilities and opportunities that came with knowledge. Returning to the chamber that evening, Harun focused on the coded book again. Using the information from the letters and journals, he began to decipher the symbols more accurately. Slowly, the book revealed stories of his grandfather's life, the struggles he had faced, the decisions he had made, and the wisdom he had gained. Harun discovered that the coded entries described not only historical events, but also moral lessons and guidance for future generations. His grandfather had known that someone would one day find this knowledge, and he had left it carefully prepared. Like a roadmap for Harun to follow, one passage stood out. It spoke of a hidden well beneath the land, a place that had been used for both storage and refuge during times of danger. The passage described how his grandfather had used the well to protect valuable items and knowledge, ensuring that they would survive for decades. Harun realized that the chamber he had found was only one of several hidden sites, each with its own purpose and significance. The discovery filled him with determination. He knew that understanding and protecting these sites would be his responsibility, just as it had been his grandfather's. While studying the journals, Harun also found references to his family's lineage. He learned that his grandfather had been part of a long line of guardians, men and women who had dedicated themselves to preserving the village's history. The realization was overwhelming. Harun had always considered himself a simple farmer, yet now he understood that he was part of a family legacy that spanned generations. The weight of this knowledge was both daunting and inspiring. He knew that he had a duty to honor his ancestors and ensure that their sacrifices were not forgotten. As the night deepened, Harun lit a small candle and continued to read. He felt a sense of connection and continuity, as if the people who had lived in the village decades ago were speaking to him directly. Their voices, recorded in letters and journals, conveyed wisdom, courage, and hope. Harun realized that the hidden chamber was more than a repository of secrets. It was a source of guidance, a teacher for those willing to listen. He felt a profound sense of responsibility, understanding that his actions in the present would shape the legacy he would leave for the future. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to filter into the chamber, Harun closed the books and letters carefully. He felt both exhaustion and a renewed sense of purpose. The truth he had uncovered was not simple. It was complex, layered, and sometimes painful, yet it was also beautiful, full of lessons about courage, integrity, and the strength of human connection. Harun realized that the discovery of the hidden chamber had shattered the simplicity of his life. But it had also given him something far more valuable, a sense of purpose, a connection to his ancestors, and a path to understanding the true history of his family and village. Climbing back up the staircase, Harun emerged into the early morning light, the oak tree standing silently above him. The field seemed brighter, the air fresher, and the village quieter than before. Harun understood that life as he had known it was over. The hidden world beneath the oak tree had changed him, revealing truths he could never unsee and responsibilities he could never ignore. Yet instead of fear, he felt determination. He would honor his grandfather, protect the secrets of the village, and embrace the journey that lay ahead. The truth had been revealed, and Harun was ready to face it. Harun had returned to his daily life on the farm, but everything felt different now. The fields, which had once been a source of comfort and pride, now seemed smaller, almost confined. The village, with its familiar paths and routines, no longer felt the same. In the days since he had uncovered the hidden chamber and studied his grandfather's letters and journals, a sense of unease had settled over him. He realized that he could never return to the life he had known before. The truth beneath the oak tree had shattered the simplicity he had taken for granted. At first, Harun tried to focus on his work. He fed the animals, tilled the soil, and repaired fences as he always had. But his thoughts constantly drifted back to the chamber, the journals, and the artifacts. Every sound, every shadow seemed to remind him of the secrets he had discovered. At night, he would lie awake in his small house, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the legacy of his grandfather, the hidden dangers mentioned in the letters, and the responsibilities that now rested on his shoulders. The weight of history felt heavy, pressing down on him like a storm cloud. One morning, Harun was walking through his fields when a neighbor approached him. The man, a simple farmer named Bilal, had noticed the change in Harun. His eyes were filled with concern. "Harun," Bilal said gently, "you seem different these days. You barely talk to anyone, and you look tired all the time. Is something troubling you?" Harun hesitated. Could he explain to anyone what he had discovered? How could he tell Bilal about the hidden chamber, the coded journals, and the secret history of the village? The truth was too heavy, too complex for casual conversation. He smiled faintly and shook his head. "I am fine," he replied softly, though even he did not believe the words. As Bilal walked away, Harun felt a pang of loneliness. The burden of knowledge was isolating. He realized that no one in the village could understand what he was going through. They were unaware of the secret world beneath the oak tree, of the coded books, of the warnings in the letters. Harun had been thrust into a reality that separated him from the familiar comforts of his past life. The farm, the animals, the neighbors, all were part of a world he could no longer fully belong to. That evening, Harun returned to the oak tree. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the fields. He lifted the hatch and descended into the hidden chamber once more. Inside, the air was cool and still, and the lantern cast a soft glow over the shelves and artifacts. Harun moved to the journals, pulling them down carefully. He needed guidance, a connection to the wisdom of his grandfather, something to help him make sense of the turmoil he felt inside. As he read, Harun discovered passages he had missed before. They spoke of moments when his grandfather had been faced with doubt, fear, and despair. Despite the challenges, he had persevered, driven by a sense of duty and love for the village. Harun felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Knowing that his grandfather had faced similar struggles made him feel less alone, but it also reminded him of the high expectations now placed upon him. He was not just a simple farmer. He was a guardian, a protector, and a bearer of knowledge that could shape the future. Days turned into weeks, and Haroun began to feel the strain. The villagers noticed his distant gaze, the way he avoided conversation, and the exhaustion that weighed heavily on him. Some whispered, wondering if something had happened, while others simply accepted that Haroun had changed. The man who had once been quiet and content was now restless, carrying a burden invisible to those around him. One evening, Haroun was working in the fields when a sudden storm approached. Dark clouds gathered and the wind began to howl. The rain fell in sheets, soaking him to the bone. He sought shelter under a small shed, but his mind was elsewhere. Thoughts of the hidden chamber, the coded book, and the legacy of his family overwhelmed him. The storm outside mirrored the storm within him, a sense of confusion, fear, and uncertainty that he could not escape. As he stood there, drenched and shivering, Haroun realized that the discovery beneath the oak tree had taken something from him. It had taken his comfort, his sense of normalcy, and the simplicity of life he had once cherished. But it had also given him something far greater: knowledge, purpose, and a connection to the generations before him. He understood that he could not go back to the way things were. Life had changed, and he had to change with it. That night, Haroun returned to the hidden chamber once more. He lit the lantern and studied the coded book again, determined to make sense of the symbols and messages his grandfather had left behind. Slowly, he began to decipher more of the text, understanding that it contained guidance for difficult decisions, warnings of potential dangers, and instructions on how to protect the village's secrets. Haroun realized that his grandfather had anticipated the challenges he would face, and that the book was meant to guide him through moments of doubt and fear. As he read, Haroun came across a passage that struck him deeply. It spoke of the importance of courage in the face of uncertainty, of the need to embrace responsibility even when it feels overwhelming, and of the power of perseverance. The words resonated with him, offering comfort and strength. He understood that while the discovery had shattered his old life, it had also opened the door to personal growth and understanding. The challenges he faced were not a curse. They were an opportunity to honor his grandfather and to shape the future of the village. Despite this understanding, Haroun could not ignore the toll the secret had taken on him. His sleep was restless, filled with dreams of hidden chambers, cryptic symbols, and shadowy figures. He sometimes woke in the night, heart racing, unsure whether he was prepared for the responsibilities now placed upon him. The burden of knowledge weighed heavily, and he began to realize that courage was not simply about facing external challenges. It was about confronting the fears, doubts, and uncertainties within oneself. One morning, as Haroun walked through the village, he noticed children playing near the oak tree. Their laughter was bright and carefree, a stark contrast to the weight he carried. He felt a pang of longing for the innocence he had once known, for a time when life was simple and worries were few. But he also understood that the hidden world beneath the tree had given him a deeper awareness, a richer understanding of life and legacy. The children's laughter reminded him of what he was protecting, of the importance of preserving the village and its history for future generations. Over time, Haroun began to find ways to cope with the pressure. He organized the letters, journals, and artifacts in the chamber, creating a system to track what he had discovered and what still needed to be understood. He made notes, created diagrams, and mapped out the hidden locations mentioned in the journals. The work was meticulous and demanding, but it provided a sense of focus and purpose. Haroun realized that by engaging actively with the knowledge he had uncovered, he could transform fear and uncertainty into strength and clarity. One evening, Haroun sat in the chamber, holding the leaf-shaped pendant he had found earlier. He felt a deep connection to his grandfather, to the generations of guardians who had come before him, and to the village itself. The chamber, the letters, and the artifacts were not simply objects. They were a legacy of courage, wisdom, and resilience. Haroun understood that the weight he carried was a gift, a chance to contribute to something larger than himself. Though the discovery had shattered the comfort of his previous life, Haroun began to see that it had also given him a new perspective. He was no longer just a farmer tending his fields. He was a guardian of history, a protector of knowledge, and a link between the past and the future. The responsibilities he faced were daunting, but they were also meaningful. Haroun realized that growth often comes from discomfort, and that the challenges he encountered would ultimately shape him into a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate person. As night fell over the village, Harun climbed back up the staircase and replaced the hatch beneath the oak tree. The storm of emotion he had felt was not gone, but it had shifted. What had once been fear and doubt was now tempered by understanding and resolve. Harun knew that the journey ahead would be difficult, but he also knew that he was ready to face it. The hidden chamber had changed his life, shattering old comforts but opening the door to a new path, one filled with purpose, discovery, and the promise of growth. Harun looked up at the sky, stars twinkling above, and felt a quiet sense of peace. The hidden world beneath the oak tree had revealed the truth of his family's past, the resilience of the village, and the responsibilities that came with knowledge. Though his life had been irrevocably changed, he understood that the discovery was not a curse, it was a calling. And for the first time in weeks, Harun felt the beginnings of hope, courage, and determination. Harun had changed. The man who once found peace in the simplicity of farm life was no longer the same. The hidden chamber beneath the oak tree had revealed a world he had never imagined, a legacy of courage, knowledge, and responsibility that had been entrusted to him. At first, the weight of this discovery had left him restless, fearful, and unsure. But over time, Harun had begun to understand that he could not run from the truth. The knowledge he now carried was not just his own. It belonged to the village, to the generations before him, and to the generations yet to come. In the early morning, before the village had awakened, Harun made his way to the oak tree. The dawn was soft, the sky painted in delicate hues of orange and pink. The air was cool, carrying the scent of earth and growing crops. Harun lifted the hatch and descended the familiar staircase into the hidden chamber. The lantern he carried cast a warm glow, illuminating the shelves, journals, and artifacts that had become so familiar to him. For a moment, he simply stood there, absorbing the quiet energy of the space. This chamber was no longer just a secret, it was a part of him. Harun began his day in the chamber by reviewing the journals and letters. Over the past months, he had read them all multiple times, but today, he approached them with a new sense of clarity. He looked not only for historical information, but for lessons he could apply to his life in the village. He carefully organized the artifacts, making detailed notes about their significance. The coded book was open in front of him, its mysterious symbols now beginning to make sense. Harun realized that the code was more than a set of instructions. It was a philosophy, a guide to life, courage, and wisdom. As he worked, Harun reflected on how far he had come. He remembered the fear he had felt when he first discovered the hidden entrance, the uncertainty that had clouded his mind as he read his grandfather's letters, and the restlessness that had followed. He realized that all those emotions had been necessary. They had forced him to confront his own doubts, to grow in understanding and strength. Harun understood that courage was not the absence of fear. It was the willingness to move forward despite it. And now, with knowledge and experience guiding him, he felt ready to embrace the responsibilities that had been passed down through generations. The village, though unaware of the hidden world beneath the oak tree, was an ever-present part of Harun's thoughts. He realized that his work was not just for himself, but for the people who lived above, for the children who played near the tree, and for the community that depended on its history being preserved. He thought of the letters describing past betrayals and sacrifices, the coded instructions for protecting knowledge, and the journals recounting the resilience of ordinary people. Harun felt a deep sense of connection to every person who had walked the village paths before him. He knew that his role was to honor their efforts and ensure that the past was not forgotten. By mid-morning, Harun decided to take action. He mapped out a plan to document and protect the secrets he had uncovered. He would create detailed records of the chamber, its artifacts, and the coded book, ensuring that the knowledge was preserved accurately, but he also knew he could not share everything with the villagers, not yet. The secrets were delicate and powerful, and revealing them prematurely could lead to misunderstandings or harm. Harun understood that patience, discretion, and careful judgment were just as important as courage and determination. As the days passed, Harun became more confident in his new role. He spent his mornings in the chamber, studying and organizing, and his afternoons tending to the fields. The balance between the hidden world and the visible world became a rhythm he could manage. Each task, whether mundane or profound, carried purpose. The farm was no longer just a livelihood. It was a place of reflection, a connection to the earth, and a reminder that even ordinary work could have extraordinary meaning when guided by wisdom and responsibility. One afternoon, while exploring a corner of the chamber he had not studied carefully before, Harun discovered a small hidden compartment. Inside were several items wrapped in cloth, a collection of personal belongings including a small journal, a pendant, and a key. The journal belonged to his grandfather, written in the last years of his life. It was filled with reflections on leadership, courage, and the importance of protecting knowledge for future generations. The pendant was shaped like a heart, smooth and warm to the touch as if holding the essence of love and care. And the key, Harun realized it must unlock another part of the hidden chamber, or perhaps another secret he had yet to discover. The discovery filled Harun with a mix of excitement and reverence. He understood that even after months of studying the hidden world, there were still layers of mystery waiting to be explored. The chamber, the journals, the artifacts, they were not static. They were alive with history, memory, and lessons that could shape the present and future. Harun realized that this ongoing discovery was part of his purpose. Life was not about reaching an endpoint, but about embracing growth, understanding, and responsibility. As the weeks turned into months, Harun began to integrate his discoveries into his daily life in practical ways. He taught the children of the village simple lessons about the importance of caring for the land, respecting history, and valuing knowledge. Without revealing the chamber or its secrets, he shared stories inspired by the journals, emphasizing courage, integrity, and perseverance. The children listened with wide eyes and open hearts, and Harun felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He was nurturing the next generation, ensuring that the values his grandfather had protected would continue to live in the village. Harun also began keeping a personal journal, documenting his own experiences, thoughts, and reflections. Writing helped him process the emotional weight of his discoveries, transforming uncertainty and fear into understanding and clarity. He realized that part of his journey was to learn from the past, but also to create his own path forward. Each entry reminded him of the courage he had found within himself, the lessons he had inherited, and the responsibilities he now carried. One evening, as Harun sat beneath the oak tree, the sun setting in brilliant colors, he felt a profound sense of peace. The wind rustled through the branches, and he imagined the whispers of his ancestors, guiding him, encouraging him, and sharing their wisdom. The tree was no longer just a guardian of secrets. It was a symbol of continuity, strength, and connection between the past, present, and future. Harun felt a sense of belonging he had never known before. He was part of something greater than himself, and the hidden chamber had revealed not only history but also meaning. In time, Harun began to uncover the full significance of the coded book. He realized that it was more than a guide to protecting the village's history. It was a blueprint for life. Its symbols and instructions emphasized courage, responsibility, empathy, and resilience. Harun applied these lessons to his daily life, making thoughtful decisions, helping others quietly, and fostering harmony in the village. Though the villagers did not know the source of his wisdom, they began to notice a change in him, a calm strength, a quiet confidence, and a depth of understanding that inspired respect and trust. Harun also explored other parts of the land, following the hidden paths indicated in his grandfather's maps. He found small markers, stones, and symbols that revealed additional secrets. Small caches of items, messages left for guidance, and reminders of past events. Each discovery reinforced the continuity of the legacy he had inherited and deepened his appreciation for the care and foresight of his grandfather. Harun understood that the hidden chamber was just one part of a much larger network of knowledge and guidance, a treasure of wisdom scattered across the land, waiting for someone to preserve it. As the months passed, Harun felt a transformation within himself. The fear and uncertainty that had once dominated his thoughts were replaced with determination, understanding, and a sense of fulfillment. The hidden world beneath the oak tree had shown him the fragility of comfort, but had also given him purpose, perspective, and the courage to embrace life fully. He realized that true growth often comes from challenges, and that the responsibility he carried was both a burden and a gift. One morning, as the first light of dawn touched the village, Harun walked through the fields with a sense of gratitude. The farm, once a simple livelihood, now felt like a place of connection, to the land, to the villagers, and to the generations who had come before him. Every step he took was guided by the lessons of the hidden chamber, every action informed by the knowledge he had inherited. Harun understood that the path ahead would not always be easy, but he was ready to face it with courage, wisdom, and purpose. Finally, Harun visited the hidden chamber one last time that day. He placed the journals, letters, and artifacts carefully in their places. The coded book rested open on the pedestal, its secrets slowly becoming clear through his understanding. He touched the leaf-shaped pendant, feeling the warmth and connection to his grandfather. Harun realized that the chamber had fulfilled its purpose. It had guided him, challenged him, and prepared him to embrace his legacy. He closed the lantern, stood, and quietly climbed the staircase. Emerging into the sunlight, Harun looked at the oak tree, its branches swaying gently in